Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. I am still not sure what to say first.
I'm Olivia.
Okay, there we go. And I'm Amy. And
this is Girls
Girls
Gone
Gone
Spooky.
Yeah,
Yay.
okay, so name first.
Beautiful.
Then
Name first.
this is.
We got it. This is the
Yep.
season. Season 4 is the season we figure it out.
Yeah. That it's finally established.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. I am super excited for this episode. I feel like we have a lot of content today.
Yes.
And we are kicking it off with a listener story. And I'm so
Yay.
excited because it actually kind of fits the theme a little bit.
Perfect.
Which is family/generational hauntings. So my good friend Rich, who lives in Toronto here, but he was raised in like Australia and England.
Cool.
He's one of my like spooky horror movie loving friends. So we have done a lot of horror movie viewings together. So he had told me a while ago, he's like, I have stories to write into you, and I just like keep forgetting to do it. So he sent them this week, and I was like, we're recording,
Yay.
so I'm going to include them. So I'll just jump right in. He says, when I was 14, I lived in a Victorian-style house in England. Not the kind of house that looked straight out of a horror movie, but my bedroom had a strange vibe, especially at night. I often felt uneasy, particularly in the far corner of the room. Sometimes the curtains would shift as if caught by a breeze, but there was never any wind. At first, I brushed it off as the house was just drafty. We eventually installed double glazing, which is supposed to eliminate drafts entirely, yet every now and then, I'd still notice the curtains swaying faintly. It didn't make sense. Then, one night, something happened that I'll never forget. I was getting ready for bed, pulling the curtains closed, when I heard a voice, a young boy's voice, whisper, "Hey there." It was so clear, coming from right beside me in that eerie corner of the room. I couldn't see anyone, but somehow an image flashed in my mind of a boy wearing a cowboy hat. Without thinking, pure adrenaline kicked in. I leapt over my bed and dashed out of the room, practically flying down the stairs in 3 steps at a time. My heart was racing as I ran to find my mom, breathless, trying to explain what I'd just heard. There was no logical answer. But the story doesn't end there. A while later, after one of their regular Wednesday visits, my grandparents were reversing out of the driveway, ready to head home. As they started to pull away, my grandmother said she suddenly froze. They'd seen something, someone, waving from my bedroom window upstairs, a little boy. The problem was, we were all downstairs at the time, waving them goodbye. My parents didn't tell me this immediately, as they didn't want to scare me, and after a few weeks went by, they told me the story. My dad, a skeptic, went around the neighborhood asking if anyone knew of a boy who had lived in our house before us, if there had been any strange occurrences they'd known about, but no one knew a thing. To this day, I can't explain what happened. I've never been one to believe in ghosts or the paranormal. I can attest to that. He is like the biggest skeptic I know, even though he loves the paranormal stuff, like horror stories. But this still haunts me, an unsolved mystery that lingers in the back of my mind.
Wow. What a great story.
I know, and it's so well written. Yeah, you did such a good job. So thank you, Rich. Gosh. Thank you for sharing with us. Yeah. I love that one. I feel like it was such like a perfect primer for this episode.
That is perfect.
It's also a good reminder, if you guys have scary stories from your own experiences that you want to share, could be ghosts, could be anything spooky, you can DM them to us on Instagram or any of our social channels, or email us at girlsgonespooky@gmail.com. So with that, Amy is going first this week with her first story.
Okay, are we ready? So this is one that you mentioned, thinking that we had already done it, which I'm surprised that we haven't.
I know.
Because, it's an Ed and Lorraine Warren story. So, like, maybe we touched on it a little, but didn't get the details.
Yeah, that seems likely.
Yeah. So we'll just dig in. So this is the Smurl family haunting, which is hard to say, but it's Janet and Jack Smurl, along with their daughters and Jack's parents, moved into a duplex on Chase Street in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. So the family were forced to move from their previous home due to flood damage. And because of that, money was tight, so they moved into this duplex, even though it was like a pretty major fixer-upper. So they started doing home improvements, and things pretty immediately started to get pretty weird. And it was fairly minor at first, like their tools were disappearing. Stains that they painted over on the walls would reappear quickly after they painted. Yeah. And then there'd be...
I hate that.
Yeah, same. And also, random but overwhelmingly bad smells that would like waft in and then right back out. So it was quickly coming and going, but still horrible. And
a stinky ghost just walking through the house.
Yeah, which yuck. I think one article I saw said that it smelled like rotting flesh. So like decomposition kind of smell.
Okay, that sounds demonic as shit.
Yeah, very. So that, I said that was minor, but it's not that minor actually. So
no,
I rescind
not at all minor.
But things get even worse, so we can continue to go up. But the next thing that started to happen was that their like small kitchen appliances, like a toaster, would catch on fire, even if they weren't plugged in. Sounds like that happened multiple times.
Oh my God.
So bizarre. And then things started to be like more sensational, I guess we'll say. Because Jack's mother, Mary, and Janet, the wife, both started hearing each other's voices calling out, even if the other wasn't home. So whatever was in there sounded like the family members. Yeah. Mary said that she once heard the sound of Jack and Janet having a terrible fight, but neither of them were in the house, and they also hadn't been fighting recently, so it was very out of the blue. And eventually, they also started seeing things, which included black shadows floating through the house. And
oh my gosh.
Once in Jack and Janet's bed, which is way too close. So
way too close, dude. Keep it out of the bedroom. Keep it out of the bedroom. Don't like that.
Seriously.
Don't like that one bit.
Yep. Because with that, Jack said that he woke up to the sound of whispering, and he saw this shadow like floating up Janet's leg. So it was like
with the whispering.
Yeah.
That combo. Oh, that like makes me itchy. I don't like that.
Yeah. It's terrifying. And this, I've never heard this before, I don't think, in any of our stories, that some of their experiences were sexual in nature. So I guess I should have said trigger warning before that. But like sexual abuse situations.
I was going to say, I mean, there is that woman in the UK who like fucks ghosts.
Right.
This sounds like it's maybe different.
Yeah, this is non-consensual demon sex.
Oh no.
So,
oh no.
Yeah. And both Jack and Janet had an experience that they talked about with feeling that way. So, yeah. We'll skip right over that, though, because that's a little disturbing.
Okay, off we go.
Yeah. And then 2 other incidents I'll mention is that once the family dog was thrown against the wall, and that would be my cutoff, Do not touch my dog.
Yeah, content
Or
warnings,
I'll kill
Amy.
you.
That's like
Sorry.
not worse than sexual assault, but like not
Mhm.
better.
Yeah, definitely
Jesus.
not. I think he was okay, but he did get thrown.
Poor Fido.
Yeah.
Little baby
Fido.
guy.
Yeah. So he was thrown, and then the daughter was involved when a light fixture fell onto her for no apparent reason.
Oh my god.
So things are escalating. So that's when they got truly desperate for answers. So they invited Ed and Lorraine Warren, our paranormal investigators, to check out the house. And by Lorraine's assessment, there were at least 4 spirits in the home. One was a harmless elderly woman. One was a young but possibly violent girl. One was an older man who had passed away in the house, and the 4th was a demon. So,
good.
Yeah. She surmised that the demon was manipulating the other spirits in the house to do its bidding. So, it was controlling the other ghosts that were around.
Got it.
Yeah. So, the family at that point asked their local church to come bless the house, and they invited people to come for prayer groups there and whatever else they could think to do. But they eventually decided to go more public with their story in hopes that somebody would see it and be able to help them. But unfortunately, that created kind of a media spectacle, and the attention wasn't all that positive. They did get the attention of the Roman Catholic Church, who came, like a priest came and did more blessings on the home. Another priest even stayed in their house for a few nights, but he didn't experience anything strange, so he just up and left. But after that, the Smurls continued to be tormented by all of this activity, like it just kept going. So they finally were able to move out in 1987, but they moved into this house in 1974. So they dealt with this for a really long time. So when they moved, though, the activity picked back up in their new home. So they finally...
Oh, no.
Yeah. They finally resorted to an exorcism. And after that, the activity did stop. So,
holy
to me,
shit. What was the Roman Catholic Church doing that whole time? They were like, well, come and observe, but we're not going to do an exorcism just yet.
Right.
Jeez.
Yeah, I don't know. And they were like doing blessings, but not, I guess, fully exorcising.
That's like light work.
Yeah. But I think that suggests to me, which fits with our theme really well, that whatever this was attached to the family and not to the house.
100%. Not the house. It makes me think, too, like, I'd like to see more people go to the press when their houses are haunted.
Yeah.
Why do people not do that anymore? I'm like, I'd love to open the New York Times and like page 4 and it'd be like, family claims house haunted on Lombard Street. Like, they're haunted, those houses.
Yeah, for sure. They should start like a whole section. It's like the op-eds.
That actually would be such a good column in a newspaper.
Yeah.
Or even just like a write-in, like a Dear Abby kind of vibe. That actually would be really interesting. We could do it. We should start canvassing to the local papers.
Perfect.
We'd like to pitch this idea.
Yeah, even if they were just like, okay, for the month of October, we could do that. But
yeah, I would love to do that. A creative writing assignment.
Okay.
That'd be very fun.
We'll see if I can get the Coloradoan to sign on.
Yeah. All right, Smurl family, you've inspired us.
Yep, that's one good thing that came out of this. But
otherwise, not much else.
Yeah, the exorcism worked, So I hope that they lived the rest of their lives in peace. And
demon-free peace. Yes.
Yeah. There's a movie, or no, a TV show and like a special of some sort about them. So they're not in the Conjuring universe or whatever all the Warren cases are. It's not part of that. But yeah, you can still find it if you want to watch more about it.
I wonder if, like, for the Conjuring universe and any, like, Amityville Horror, any of these, like, for ones where the people are still living, do they have to sign off on these movies? They must. It's their name and likeness. Yeah. So wouldn't they have to sign over, like, life rights?
Yeah, I would think so. Which...
I don't, because then a lot of them aren't happy with how it's portrayed. So it's interesting.
Right. Yeah, but then maybe you probably can't do anything about it.
And the, what's it called? The, like, production probably isn't super transparent about how it's actually going to go. So that's an interesting thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Yeah. But a lot of poor families have been through terrible things. So
yeah, terrible things.
Yeah.
God.
But that's the Smurls, which is very difficult to say. Okay, so then I just have one more.
Not the best name.
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's a little bit long. It's a story from Reddit. Because I was trying to find, like, people who have had the same ghosts, like, through generations, like, without knowing it. That was my ideal thing I was trying to find.
Yeah.
But then I got onto family curses, and I couldn't get away. So this is a story.
Oh, that's really creepy.
Yeah. So this is a story from Reddit about a family curse. So it's written by Kiwi Peach. And she says, "Hi, I'm Betsy, and I'm 22. I come from a Mexican family, and I'm first-generation American. We live in the U.S., and my grandma resides in Mexico. I apologize if this is a long thread, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. So, when I was 11, our old home was haunted. We would see shadows, our things would move or go missing, we would get touched aggressively, and we would hear people have conversations at night. But we lived in an isolated industrial area and barely had neighbors. At 12 years old, my parents had taken me to a medium, and she confirmed our experiences and even let us know that something dark was attached to us. At the time, I was angry for no reason, and I hated everything and everyone. I was also suicidal, even though I knew I loved my life and my family. When I was outside the home, I actually felt normal and happy. I was getting attacked emotionally and physically. Something would try to pull my covers so I would fall off the bed, and I would wake up with unaccounted for bruises. I was beat, and I couldn't sleep anymore. If I did, it was for just a few hours. The medium had confirmed that this was a demonic entity, and it was sent to us purposely. My family was suffering because we didn't know how to fight something that we couldn't see. As the energy in our home got worse, my parents thought it was best that we move. We moved into a new home, and it felt good to live in a place with good energy. A couple months into the move, my dad decided to get his parents a visa to visit the U.S., even though he knew his parents didn't like us or my parents' marriage. He did his best to give them everything they didn't have. Also, my dad was in denial about his mother's feelings and behavior. They stayed in our home for 6 months, which is so long.
Oh!
Yeah. Very long time.
For someone who doesn't like your kids' marriage or kids, it's like kind of overstaying your welcome, I'd say.
Definitely. I'd say so. So
that's wild.
Yeah. Stayed for 6 months. When my grandma would make lunch, she didn't like when we ate her food. They took over my parents' room, and they told my mom to sleep on the futon. Of course, my mother swallowed her pride and accommodated. Yeah.
Bad energy.
Very bad. So my grandma didn't like when we would go into the room, our parents' room, because we were intruding. They finally left, and the
Ironic.
the bad activities started to pick up again. Again, we would see shadows, but this time they would come out of the mirror. The furniture, the furniture would creak as if someone applied pressure to it, and you felt as if you weren't alone, even if you were. My mother had stated this is happening because of my grandma, but of course my dad didn't believe it. My mom and my sister began to talk, curse, and scream while they were sleeping. I started having sleep paralysis again, and I would get scratched in threes, and I had more bruises.
Oh.
I don't know what scratched in threes means, like 3 fingers or something.
Maybe, yeah, I guess.
Yeah. I couldn't sleep or experience my new home in peace. My grandparents had visited again 2 more times. The last time they waited till my dad was at work, and they packed their things and left. Their excuse for that was my mom. My mom did her best, even though they would belittle her in her own home. My dad was heartbroken because he was doing his best to provide, and they disowned him. In 2019, my mom had traveled to Mexico to say her goodbyes to a dying cousin. People in the village had let my mother know that my grandma was a bruja, a witch, and she was known for doing brujeria, dark magic. And she would let people know that my mother wasn't the woman for her son. While my mom was gone, I was being attacked, things were being thrown, and photos of my mother fell off the shelf. Whatever was in our home was waiting till my mom was far away to hurt me and my little brother, which is so scary. When my mom came home, she let my dad know, and he was devastated. He felt guilty because they were using him and because she was mean to us. We consulted another medium. She came to our home and confirmed that something was sent to our home to hurt us. We found out that my grandma had stolen some of our knickknacks. She had left her personal things in our house and hid them in the closet. And she also left dark magic work in our backyard behind the shed and buried in the dirt.
Oh my God.
It turns out she had been cursing us for years, but we just can't seem to get rid of the work she has done. Yeah. I went to visit my grandma.
What a witch.
Yes, she is a witch in a bad way. She's a bad witch.
Yeah, not a compliment.
No. So they went to visit her for some reason, and the grandma hugged me and cried crocodile tears because she missed me so much. I've been experiencing this since a kid, and I am 22 now. I know it's a demonic entity because I have seen it in its form, and I've seen others too. They still haunt me and attack me to this day. They like to follow me from my home to my boyfriend's house. When I sleep, they're in my dreams, and they like to hold me down when I'm in sleep paralysis. I do my absolute best to protect myself spiritually, and I feel less scared and stronger now. Whatever my grandma did is strong, but I was told that when one demon knows you, they all know you, which I hate.
Oh,
that sentiment.
I really, really, really hate that a lot.
Yeah. And then last thing, I hate that this is my life and I don't seem to know anything else beside it and don't have anywhere to confide in. So there were a lot of people in the comments of that. I guess I was going to say surprisingly, but maybe it's not a surprise, but everyone was saying, accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior. So there weren't any practical, I mean, that is practical, I guess, but nothing immediate that you can do to combat that. But that's
horrible.
Curse.
And that and a family member doing that to you. I feel like there was a story on Spooked that was like this, the doll one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Totally reminds me of that.
I know. I couldn't remember if I had brought that up once before in an episode, but that might be my all-time favorite.
You told me to listen to it. Mm-hmm. I think my favorite is the hospital one, and I'm not going to share it because I'll share it when we do another haunted hospital episode. But Yeah,
Yeah.
there that show, I don't like love the format of that podcast. It's the Snap Judgment Spooked,
Yeah.
for anyone who's like, what are you talking about? Because they do like an intro, like spooky
poetry.
Yeah,
Almost.
poetry, and then they do a separate like little short scene story, and then they get into the story. So sometimes I just like fast forward to the actual story because I'm like, this is again, it's not even related half the time. Right. It's like the theme. There's no theme. It just like is.
Yeah,
the beat poetry is a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Great show, but yeah, I fast forward too.
Yes.
Usually. Oops.
Okay. Is it my turn?
Yeah. It's your turn.
Okay, I have quite a bit of content. So a couple of them are kind of light. So I'm going to start there and then we'll get to the grand finale. So this is from the Ghosts subreddit and it's from a deleted user, but they call it Multi-Generational Haunting Separated by 186 Miles. Whoa. Hey everyone, and this is from 2 years ago. So this is happening right now, and I just want to know if anyone has dealt with or is currently dealing with a similar situation or has even heard of what we're going through as a family. My mom contacted me 2 days ago looking for help with her dog, since I train dogs for a living. Starting around 2 weeks ago, their dog Henry, which is so cute, started acting strangely when left alone during the day. Not every day either, just seemingly random occurrences of violence. A little background on Henry. He's a neutered male, 3-year-old Australian Shepherd that my parents have owned since he was 10 weeks old. He has lived in their house basically his entire life and has shown no negative behaviors besides being an escape artist until this quote-unquote event. During the day, when my parents go to work, Henry is left by himself with free roam access to the main living spaces. He has weekly play dates and my mom goes home for lunch every day, so he's not left alone for more than a few hours. As a dog trainer, my first thought is separation anxiety or lack of meaningful stimulus, but I can't help feeling like he's either being directly attacked or being harassed, which is triggering this behavior. When my parents come home, their house is destroyed. I can't attach pictures here to show you the extent of the damage, but it is extensive. DM me if you'd like to see pictures and the text conversations from my parents. We're talking books ripped off the shelves, glassware smashed, Christmas tree toppled, and Henry is found cowering in a hiding place. For instance, he blew off a lot of fur while cowering in their bathtub. I think they meant like he was hiding in there for so long, like he was shaking and hair was falling off of him. Henry is also alerting towards the basement door when they get home. At the same time as their house is getting destroyed, things are going missing. My mom told me that on Wednesday after dinner, the power cord for their rice cooker disappeared. The rice cooker was used that night and was not unplugged by either my mom nor my dad. And on that same day, the power cord for their Christmas decoration also seemingly blipped out of existence. Here's where it gets kind of odd. I live in New Jersey while my parents live in Massachusetts, 186 miles away. I have a Samsung S22 Ultra and it has a built-in stylus. I was using it to scroll and put it down to send a text message while sitting on the couch. And the stylus disappeared from where I put it down. I could not find it after 30-ish minutes of looking, and it was missing long enough for me to look into getting a replacement. My wife has a spare pen from her old S21. It's a different shape though, so when I went to see if it would fit in my phone, I realized my missing one was back on my phone already. I didn't put it there, my wife didn't either, and up to that moment, I promise you it was gone, because the whole reason I was looking for a new one was that when you walk away from the pen, the phone alerts you to it being missing. And that alert had been on my phone until the moment I went to try the other stylus.
Whoa.
It's annoying, that little alert, so I knew it was missing. And this is just the latest in a long, long line of things disappearing and reappearing on their own. The weirdest part is that a lot of the time, if the thing doesn't appear exactly where it was left before, then it shows up in a shoe. Which is so weird.
Oh, interesting.
Over the years, things that I have seen disappear and reappear in shoes include an iPod, Samsung Galaxy Buds, a ring, money, a TV remote. In the last couple days, my dog has been alerting on the bedroom door, crying and sniffing with raised hackles, which he's never done before. I sent a group message to my family to see if anyone else is experiencing weird things, and my grandma says the Christmas lights are being turned off on their own. And my brother-in-law also shared his lights are being turned off as well. My grandma is in Texas. So now we have 4 different family members in 3 different states, separated across the country, experiencing something that's similar and potentially linked. So it's interesting because it's like a lot of this you could just kind of like explain away. Like, oh, you just put it somewhere you didn't remember and forgot. But it's like power cords and electronic accessories, like that seems to be the focus, and they go on in the comments to share that as well. Everyone is like, get cameras, because what if there's a person in your house? But one person, Ananda Priestess Love, said, hello, friend. I'm initiated clergy and interfaith minister and have been practicing haunt remediation and personal blessings and protections for over 20 years. Have you or anyone in your family upset somebody lately who may practice any kind of magical tradition, specifically Santeria, voodoo, hoodoo, or traditional witchcraft? This is my first thought. Sometimes if you or your family piss off a practitioner badly enough, they'll curse the whole family. And what you're all experiencing sounds like spiritual warfare. I don't usually leap there, but the number of occurrences at large distances is very suspicious to me. So it's just like a weird vibe. So they gave some like tips for like, here are like little things you can do to kind of like protect yourself. Including like putting pink Himalayan sea salt lamps around. They're cheap and available from Amazon or your local discount shop. Buy a few, place them all over the place, and then turn them on with prayers for blessing and protection for your house, and then just leave them on. Different kinds of incense, things like that. So really interesting.
I didn't know that about salt lamps.
I didn't either. I have one.
Yeah, I do too. I have a few of them.
I just love them. I just think they look nice.
They're so cozy.
Yeah, very cozy. So yeah, I just thought that one was like a weird starter, because it's like all across the country. What weird? Like it's just weird, and it's little things that like they're not a huge deal. It's not like they're being like outright attacked, but at the same time, enough of those building up, and you'd be like, oh my God, I'm losing my mind.
Yeah. Right.
So I don't know.
Did the original poster acknowledge the camera suggestion at all? Comment back?
Let me look. There were a few people who said that. Oh, you know what? I can't see any of their comments. Oh no. There was one comment that came through from the OP, but they're deleted now. So I think it doesn't display everything.
Just curious, because the home intruder idea is also very
freaky.
Scary.
But then everyone is like in 2 different houses, like in different states, because the dog freaking out and then alerting a door, like a specific door in the house, is really creepy. Like that's really creepy, happening in 2 places. So I don't know. This next one, very scary. This next one is from Mandolin Unicorn, and it's in the Paranormal Encounters subreddit, and it's called Family Haunting? ? I've heard of ghosts or spirits following a certain person, but is it common for a family to be experiencing paranormal activity when they don't live in the same home? Yes, is the answer. Coincidence, or is this the same ghost? Is it because of proximity? I'll explain. I live in the same apartment complex as my cousin, but we're in separate buildings. A few months ago, my boyfriend and I were watching TV. I don't know why this really creeps me out. I just have to preface this. Okay. We were watching TV when I noticed the tent that we have for our cats was moved so far out of place that someone would have had to pick it up and move it to that location. What's weird is that this tent sits right next to our TV, and we have to walk past it to go to the kitchen. Before we sat down to watch TV, we were both in the kitchen getting snacks. It wasn't out of place then because we would have tripped over it if it had been where it ended up. Right. Neither of us even saw it moved. It was like it moved so slowly, it didn't catch our eye until I looked over and realized how far out of place it was. Hate that. Yeah. Hate that. That is something just like
bad image.
Creepy pulling it.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Next event, my cousin is home alone and having a mini at-home spa day. She's in the middle of typing a message to her boyfriend about it, and her TV turns on by itself to a commercial about spas. The next day, she's at home on her phone watching TikToks, and the TV turns on again to the show Ghost Hunters. I don't remember the exact context of the episode, but it scared her so much that she didn't want to be home alone in the apartment anymore. That same week, this I hate, and I feel like we should do, I think we've done something similar, but like a haunted electronics. Our Amazon Echo started randomly saying things like, "Sorry, I didn't catch that," even when it was dead quiet in our house, or would say, "Okay, playing Johnny Rodriguez." We finally just unplugged it and haven't used it since. Sometime later, my boyfriend was getting ready to go to bed. I was already asleep, and he walked over to turn off our floor lamp. Next to our floor lamp is a small basket for random items. He turns the lamp off and goes to start walking back to our bedroom and trips over the basket because it moved on its own away from the wall and lamp after he turned the lamp off. So like he sees it, turns the lamp off, and suddenly it's in a different location when he turns to walk around to the other side of the bed.
Oh no.
Last night, things went from spooky to me being afraid to be in my home alone. My boyfriend and I were getting ready for bed. He went to use the restroom first, closed the door, and the exhaust fan was running. And I went to our bedroom. Next to my bed is my vanity, which I also use as my nightstand. I put my phone on the wireless charger, turned my bedside lamp off, and was just about to get into bed when the items on my vanity, including the lamp, came crashing down. When I say crashing, I mean it was as if someone shoved everything off of the vanity in a fit of rage. It was so loud, my boyfriend heard it and thought I had fallen. The lamp shattered, and we have carpet. That's how hard it was thrown.
Oh my gosh.
I could feel the force of it as it was happening, like how you would imagine feeling the wind if someone angrily shoved things off of a table in front of you. Anyway, I can't tell if these are weird coincidences or what. My cousin feels like it's a haunting of the apartment complex versus our family, but now I'm scared and want someone to tell me it's just my paranoia. So someone replied, Echo 61089 said, "It's possible for a type of poltergeist to attach itself to a single person in a family and follow them when they move to a new property. I actually knew a person with this exact issue. As for multiple family members, it's normally when you're all under the same roof. So it's the property that might be haunted, not the individual. Technically, you and your cousin live in same separate properties, but the only thing I can think of is like you're visiting each other's houses often. So it's like it could be one of you, it could be both of you. Who knows?"
Yeah. Oh wow.
Scary. That would be really freaky.
Yeah. We should do haunted electronics.
Yeah.
Because
oh my god.
That I used to have
I feel like we have a lot on that.
Yeah, we do. And I used to have, I don't think this was haunted, but it scared me. I had this little ATM machine, like a fake ATM machine when I was younger. And I always kept it in the closet. And I would hear it sometimes saying, "Welcome to the ATM machine."
No, I had a Furby that used to do that.
Time. Yeah. Like, why are you talking?
So
I didn't touch you.
Oh, I don't like that. And if it's like a motion detector one, that's even creepier.
Yeah. No.
Okay, I have one more little quickie story, and then I have my main one. So this is actually taken from an episode of Rattled and Shook called Freaky Little Beasties. And I think it's the second story in that episode. So if you want to go and like listen to it, the guy who does the retelling is very good. So I just kind of like re-listened to it and summarized it because it was so creepy. So as a child, this guy lived in a trailer with his family, and he would have these dreams, or he doesn't know if they were really dreams, but he thinks maybe they were dreams, where he would like wake up in the middle of the night and go out into the kitchen because he'd think he'd like heard a sound. And from outside the windows of the trailer, he would see this like beast walking around the trailer, like looking for ways to get in, was the sense he got. And I envision like the goat man, like demon, like the devil kind of, like that's immediately what I envision. I can't remember if he actually describes him, but anyway, this like big beast. So he has this dream like over and over and over again. And eventually the dream starts to evolve where the beast like finds a way into the house. So like he wakes up, goes into the kitchen, and the door is open and he's like, oh my God. And then he turns around and the beast is there. So finally he works up the courage to confront it. And as he reaches out to touch it, because it's like just standing there, not moving, as he reaches out to touch it, it turns into a chair, like a kitchen chair. Wow. And the weirdest part about these dreams is every time he wakes up, he's in the kitchen. So he's not in his bed. He's like sleepwalked, I guess, into the kitchen. Whoa. Or was it actually happening? Like it's very unclear, like what is going on. And this time when this beast turns into the chair at the very end, there's a chair in the middle of the kitchen floor. So he doesn't know if like, did I drag it there? Like, I didn't do that in the dream. I don't remember doing that. Like weird. And the chairs, like he was saying that his father had a bit of a temper. And so in the morning he had to wake up really early to go to work. So like no one dare put anything in his path. So it would be very unusual for the chairs not to all be tucked in really tight to the kitchen table. So really weird. So fast forward a few years, his grandparents start renovating this farmhouse that had been in the family for a really long time. And the grandmother is like all in. She's very religious, like stops going to church to dedicate all of her time to the work on this house. And the kid hates the house. Like he's like, house just gives him the creeps. Like he's like, don't like this, giving me a weird vibe. He always feels like there's someone watching him. And a few times over the months that they're renovating, at night, he thinks outside the kitchen window, he sees a glimpse of the beast. So he's like, that's really scary. And like kind of convinces himself like, this is just me being scared. It's just like a figment of my imagination. He goes on to say like the house seemed to have this way of like wanting to hurt them. So he explains like, the house is under construction, yes, but like they have a good sense of like what areas are safe and unsafe, and it would just change suddenly. So like one day flooring that was like completely stable and sound would collapse, and it would be like right after someone steps on it and like they jump back and the whole thing caves in. Or the chimney suddenly collapsed one day and fell in a way that it nearly hit the entire family eating lunch outside under like a big tree.
Oh my God.
Weird stuff like that. Really, really weird. So eventually, spontaneously, something inside the house catches fire and basically the whole house burns. So I think at that point, he doesn't like go into a ton of detail, but like they still had the house in their possession, but I think most of it was like pretty messed up. But he always said like whenever I visited that property again, I did not feel the scary feelings anymore. Like it was like the fire kind of burned it away. Things felt a lot better. So fast forward again, this is now like early 2000s. This kid has grown up. He's an adult. He gets together with his grandfather, his grandmother, his mom, and his aunt, and they're having dinner together one day. The farmhouse comes up at some point in the conversation, and this now grown-up kid shares how much he hated that house. And he even shares about his weird dreams and the beast that were happening like around a similar time. And when he finishes and he's like looking up at everyone, his mother and his aunt are nearly in tears because they had had the same dreams.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
creepy.
He says that the grandfather sort of breaks the tension with like a joke or something like kind of goofy, but the grandson senses that like he was like really eager to get off the topic. That like he thinks he'd seen some shit too.
Wow.
So eventually the grandmother starts sharing about the great grandfather. So his grandfather who was at the table with them, his father was a really evil man, like treated his sons horribly and had spent his final days in that farmhouse. And so the grandson is like, I wonder if the beast had something to do with him. So it's like unclear if like the grandfather's energy left that behind or if he was so evil because of the influence of the beast.
Right.
And if the daughter the mom and the aunt and the grandson sort of like fought it off somehow, or if the fire sort of just like made it go away. But really weird, really creepy.
That is, wow. And so scary for all of them.
Yeah.
I feel like those are the most like,
I know.
oh my God,
really
stories.
Scary.
The punchline when people are like, I had the same dream.
Yes.
So
oops. I had the same dream. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like they shared like how it looked and all of that stuff, and it was like the same. So
do you remember
anyway,
how
very
it
creepy.
Looked?
And this is my
You said
I don't
like the goat
I'm pretty sure
man.
I think the reason why I'm describing like the goat man, like so like a bipedal like goat with big horns and like all black with like reddish eyes with this like vertical slits. Like very scary. I mean, that would be very scary to see as a child.
Yes.
At any age, but especially as a child.
Be haunting.
So yeah, very creepy. Okay, and this is my last one. This is a story from Jessica Moffat, and she submitted it to HuffPost, and it is titled, "My family hid the haunting in our home from me for years. Then I found these photos." So this was written October 18th, 2022, or published then. I'm going to skip around a little because it's really quite long. So I'm just going to kind of like jump in and out of certain parts of the story. Perfect. So she says, "My family and I lived in Rancho Cucamonga, a sun-drenched suburb in Southern California. From the outside, our house was like so many others in the neighborhood. Inside, things were much, much different. Odd, smooth patches blotched the stucco-textured walls like faded wounds, some bearing the faint impressions of triangular shapes that had been scratched into the plaster. The second floor was completely off limits, annexed by the permanent shadow at the height of the staircase. No one ever ventured up there. My parents and grandmother never discussed these oddities, and as bizarre as they were, the strangest sight of all was the unexplained behavior of my family. At sunset, Dad would creep through the halls like a trespasser. After dark, he wouldn't leave my parents' bedroom unless Mom or one of us kids escorted him. Grandma gave a panicked once-over to every room she entered, no matter the time of day, and if so much as a knick-knack was out of place, she would completely lose it. If my brothers or I questioned any of it, Mom would tell us everything was fine. The same words we'd often overhear her whispering to our father and grandmother. If that were true, then what were they afraid of? I didn't know. Dad attributed his peculiarities to a perpetual case of nerves stemming from his poor health. Grandma offered no rationale to excuse herself. Her demands for secrecy and her bouts of terror echoed through my childhood years, eventually drowning out Mom's reassurances and overriding my cautious wonder. It wasn't necessary for me to understand my grandmother's fear for me to become infected with it, and I soon carried it with me wherever I went. So they go on to talk about like finding ways to find solace, like this, like taking some comfort in like keeping the secret along with the rest of the family. The mom really wanted the kids to like, don't be so secretive, like go live your life, play soccer, do karate, like go do activities. And eventually, like this girl Jessica wanted to just like go through life and not have anyone ask questions because she didn't have the answers of like, why is your family so weird? She'd be like, right. I don't know. So this worked until around college. And she was, she wanted to be like all of these like confident young women she was seeing on campus, and she just couldn't, especially because she was away from her brothers and the few childhood friends she had kept. And she, in hindsight, is like, my childhood was really messed up, and like I still don't understand why. So she goes on to say, my father died suddenly in 2012, only a few years after my grandmother passed in 2009. A month later, I found my mother cleaning out the bedroom closet. She was sitting on the bed, which was mostly covered with photographs. I assumed she was reviewing the happy memories from her life with my father, but when I looked at the photographs, I didn't understand what I was seeing. Every photograph was strange, some horrifying. A knife thrust into a picture of my grandmother on the wall, a group of bizarre shapes scratched into a door, bright words written on a mirror that read, "Lee, die." I flinched when I saw
Whoa.
my own grandmother's name. "What is all this?" I asked. "I can't believe your father kept any of these," she replied, instead of offering a direct answer. "He and your grandmother were afraid to talk about it. I wasn't, but they thought we'd bring it back if we did." My gaze shifted to a photo of a sprawling white shape, drawn in some sort of powder on a brown rug. It had a windswept, spectral look. It was a triangle, the cryptic motif I'd seen in the house so many times over the years, with an S-styled tail extending from the base. "You're going to have a hard time believing what I want to tell you," my mom continued, "and maybe I shouldn't. You and your brothers have come along this far without knowing, but something horrible happened to us a long time ago. But it's up to you if you want to hear it." I took my place at the end of the bed, ready to listen. "There was something with us for a long time," she continued. "Some people told us it was a ghost or a demon. We only knew it as the entity." Oh, it gives me chills. "We were haunted?" I asked, bewildered. "We were terrorized," she said.
Oh, God.
And so my mother's account began. She explained that in 1987, 3 years before I was born, an unknown presence invaded our home. It revealed itself with 2 words written on the bathroom mirror: "No escape." She claimed that inexplicable acts of destruction and incomprehensible phenomena soon consumed my family. The photographs showcase the daily damages levied against our house, with symbols gouged into walls and whole rooms tossed into disarray. And there was more writing. Other photographs depicted single words or whole lines of communication scrawled over glass. Demands, insults, threats. Every message conveyed a chilling, human-like intelligence. I couldn't believe what I was hearing and seeing. It was just too fantastical, literally like something out of a horror movie. But my mom told me the story calmly and clearly, as though she was telling me about any other part of her life, like it was something that had just happened. Finding no logical explanation for what was occurring, my mother said that our family consulted anyone professing any kind of spiritual expertise. Among the deluge of self-proclaimed magicians and local light workers, the leading paranormal experts of the day broke through the tide to offer occasional hope. Everyone from Dr. Evelyn Paglini to Ed and Lorraine Warren, now famous from the Conjuring films, had an opinion as to what the entity was. My mom said Lorraine Warren believed it was one of the most ancient, evil, and powerful demons she'd ever encountered. But demon or not, no one knew why the entity had targeted my family. My mom said that our family kept the entity's presence secret. Other than the quote-unquote professionals who tried to help us, they told no one what was happening. She explained at first my grandmother insisted they stay quiet because other people would think they were crazy, but later confessed that she feared the entity was punishment from God for the sins of her father, who had been a hitman for one of the Cosa Nostra families of Southern California. As she continued, the story became stranger and even more sinister. According to her, the entity itself eventually announced its purpose, writing that my grandmother belonged to it. It alleged she had been promised in a past life and it had come to collect its dues.
Oh my God.
So scary.
Whoa. Wow.
The entity's attacks against my grandmother were vicious and inescapable. My mom said that it destroyed her personal possessions, planted knives in her furniture, chased her out of the upstairs bedroom she'd been sleeping in, and continuously invented new ways to antagonize her. I asked why we didn't just move, and she said that moving wasn't an option. Apparently, they tried to leave, but the entity followed my family members wherever they went. It reminded them of its existence by drawing symbols on hotel windows and causing other havoc if they decamped somewhere else in hopes of escaping its wrath. Wary of being put in compromised situations in public, she said our only recourse was to endure it alone in the house. It basically felt like it was never going to go away. And Evelyn Paglini in 1989, she came into the house and said she believed that for the entity to be so entrenched in our lives, a family member was likely giving it permission to remain. Years later, my mother discovered that my grandfather, whom I had never known, wiping away conversations he was having with this entity from the bathroom mirror.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but it
Oh,
continued long after he was gone. So
wow.
my mother discovered that my grandfather was urging the entity to kill my grandmother so that he would gain control of their finances, including access to the large inheritance my grandmother's parents had left her.
Whoa.
Confronted with this betrayal, my grandmother demanded that he leave the house and our lives. He moved out of state. We never saw him again. And like, while they were relieved to see him go, her father was really traumatized by this and sort of like horrified by the betrayal of who he was. But that wasn't enough, Mom explained. Even with your grandfather gone, no one could force the entity out. And we couldn't go on like that. You kids were getting older, old enough to start asking questions, and we didn't want you to be affected by what was happening. So I finally took matters into my own hands and told the entity to leave. And it listened, I asked, somewhat incredulously. Yes, it wrote that it wanted to stay, but I told it again it had to leave. It reluctantly complied, but it wouldn't go alone. This is so interesting to me. My mother revealed that a paranormal researcher had been living with us at the time to study the entity. He told her that he believed the entity had the power to change his life and begged it to go with him. When the researcher departed in 1992, the paranormal activity in our house ceased. The last message the entity ever wrote was, "Goodbye, my family."
Oh my God. What? And that researcher
Yeah.
volunteered to take that on. That's insane. Oh my God.
So the article goes on to talk about how, like, now that the dad and the grandmother were gone, like, they could finally release the secret. They, like, the mother, like, gathered the whole family to, like, share, like, this is what was actually happening at that time, because they didn't tell anyone. It was like the immediate family didn't even know.
Right.
They got to tell their friends. Like, it was like this huge release of the secret that had been so long held. And yeah, that the grandmother and the father feared for so long, and why the mom never spoke again on it was, like, before that was, they were like, you're going to bring it back. If you talk about it, it's going to come back and we're going to have to live through this hell again. So, but the mom just had this intuition that, like, no, it's gone. Like, I told it to go, it's gone. It's attached to that guy now.
Yeah.
Who wanted it, I
Who
guess.
volunteered. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is like, what? Why would you ask for that?
Right. I wonder if he's published anything or, like,
I don't
said
know
anything about that.
I don't know. They didn't share his name, but it's like,
Wow.
how crazy is that?
That is, like, seems like the most sort of controlled relationship with a demon that we've read about.
Controlled, and, like, the retelling also feels really, like, matter of fact, I guess. Like, it's just like, yeah, this happened.
Yeah. It's just, yeah. It's our history.
Yeah.
That is
I don't
crazy.
know. I read that and I was like, how have we never heard of this before? The Moffat family.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Surprised.
It's wild. I guess because they kept it secret for so long, but yeah, I thought it was so interesting. Wow. So yeah.
Great one.
That brings us to the end, my friends. So thank you so much for listening. You guys can, like I said before, write us your stories. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Girls Gone Spooky. Please rate and review the podcast. That helps. So does word of mouth. If you like the pod, share it. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys next week. But until then, stay spooky.
Stay spooky. Bye.
Bye.